right, beauties. Let's see if this gorgeous woman, OMG. So good. This is so good. I knew it. Oh my gosh, I am so excited. So this has been, for anyone watching, this has been the third time we've done this. Just, the regular tech stuff that we get to go through. So she's just jumping on right now. We're going to chat today about sexuality, sensuality, and intimacy. And this is going to be nice and juicy. Juicy in the sense of we really want to just chat about what is real. What is real? What is maybe some things that, some of us might be thinking sexuality is, or thinking intimacy is, or thinking sensuality is, but the actual reality of it, because a lot of the times what can happen is we can get so caught up in this I'm just going to invite you on again, babe. There's kind of like a story that our brain coming up potently, but I was like, there was this fear, eradicating, debilitating, like fear in my body around diving into sexuality. Even just the word brought so much with it, diving into, sensuality. And I feel like the first starting point for me anyway was diving into intimacy, self-intimacy. I'm really good at self-intimacy, and I feel like this is a lot of my work started in self-intimacy and then branched into sensuality. And the final piece for me has been the sexuality piece, and they're all still molding together. But what it's actually allowing is for me to see these parts of myself that I have essentially shut down, and I've held so much fear around. And I see this a lot with women. If I can get Kirsten to jump on, if Facebook wants to let her on, we're going to chat a little bit about, the truth of it, because really it's not scary like our brain tells us that it is. It's not scary at all. What is actually scary is the story that our mind tells us around it. All right, let me see. All right. So it says you're adding, my love. So if you're watching, I invite you to.
Oh my goodness, girl.
I feel like I've just kind of come home. Oh, my body's like, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was a journey.
So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And yes, it was. But that's all right. We made it. That little icon
Yes,
that I
it
was meant to push
was.
somehow magically appeared.
It got there. It got
Oh,
there.
my dear.
So for those of you
We
watching, this is the beautiful Kristen Knight. She works with sexuality, sensuality, intimacy, and a lot more things. Yeah, do you want to share a little bit about you and about what you work with, my love.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
talked earlier this week. I mean, I've loved watching Lauren's journey, and I've been in the kind of sex coaching, intimacy coaching, relationship coaching for a few years now, and kind of actually started with more focus on coaching men, which was incredible. Like after I kind of went on such a deep dive into my own sexuality and my own sexual journey and kind of coming out the other side and realizing how much this work was needed for the planet, but there was like this deep calling to work with men initially, which was amazing and so fantastic. And the amount of space holding that I could do, and kind of it's a unique experience, right, to work with the opposite sex, because men kind of got this insight from a woman's perspective into the secrets of women's sexuality. You know, a lot of men were coming to me like they wanted to really up level the way that they were in relationships, the way that they were in their sexuality, and have more, I think, sexual power, even though power was a real triggering word for a lot of my clients, because power has been equated with destruction and, you know, tearing people down and having to stomp on people in order to, you know, feel powerful. And so it was like such a big reframing in that, is actually changing and rewriting what that word meant, and really celebrating men in their sexual power and giving them the tools and techniques to really help them come into their fullest expression so they can show up for all these beautiful women that we now work with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so then it was kind of like worked a lot with men, which kind of led me into relationships. And then there was like this deep, deep yearning to connect with women on this level. You know, I kind of feel like there was so much service kind of serving men in this way, but I wanted to use my voice, and I have the voice of a woman, of being in a woman's body and connecting with women in this way. So it's definitely been a journey from like men to couples to now working with women. And I'm so excited to be in the women's space. It's so juicy and wonderful and alive and amazing, and such a big part of my journey. I don't know why this phone won't stay up, so it's not on my face
Just wants to
anymore.
look at your breasts, my love. Your
Just
juicy
keeps
breasts.
going down. Oh my
Delicious.
goodness. Oh my goodness. So anyway, so
Mm.
that, I mean, prior to this work, I mean, really, and I was talking to someone earlier today, was really starting in the kind of yoga, health, and like health coaching space, but realizing, oh my God, like this is an important piece, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. And so it was like this natural journey of kind of awakening to being conscious around what I was putting in my body, how I was moving my body, and then realizing like, whoa, like how deep it runs when we actually go into the body, into the body, into the body, deeper and deeper and deeper, which kind of leads us to our creation energy, our life force energy, our sexuality, and realizing that this actually was like the most potent source of energy, aliveness, um, creativity, expansion, that when you start to kind of unwind all of the, let's call it, conditioning, everything that's kind of been bestowed upon us from our parents, from society, from, you know, our peers, media, all the rest, from religion. And as I slowly started to unwind all of that, realizing what, like, there was like this jewel sitting like in my womb and in my yoni, and just allowing, like really working through the shame and the guilt and the fear that is so wrapped up in sexuality, like coming out the other side of that is, and I mean, of course, it's an ongoing process, it's an ongoing journey, but coming out the other side of that, there's so much aliveness, there's so much creativity and joy that can be expressed from this place, because I didn't feel like I was moving through the world kind of like just half cooked, like half, like just kind of going through the motions. But it's like when I started to feel into and tap into the resources that my body held and the amount of pleasure that I could experience from my body, and taking this kind of obsession with like skin deep beauty, which was definitely a trap I fell into, and was able to go so much deeper. That was really like such a turning point for me, and that's why I'm so like passionate about sharing that with women, as I know that you are too. It's like, how do we move from this paradigm? And I was actually just doing some writing the other day around like, how are we meant to age gracefully when we're just like focused on this, like on the superficialness of how we look? And that's like a real thing for women, right? Like, as we get older and as our body changes and as our skin changes and everything, it's like, whoa, really understanding how important it is to source that place of worthiness and belonging and love from inside and not outside. And that is such a huge paradigm shift, wouldn't you say?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And I find that it's a constant shift to, like, I had an experience where I felt like what I can describe is like someone dropped me into my human. It's like I had not been in my human, then all of a sudden someone just dropped me into this body energetically. And I felt my whole entire body just fill out with my soul and my essence. And so that was the very first experience that I had of being in my body. And exactly like you're saying, it's constantly, like, for me, it's a constant coming back home to that. It's a constant coming back home to that energy, that, you know the home that is our body, and the energy that moves through that at all times as well. But when you feel it, when you drop into that, fuck, you wonder where you've been. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
was like,
where?
I wasted so much time.
Right?
Right?
Exactly.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so, like, I love all the pieces, because our journeys are quite similar in the sense that, like, for me, I started out with the physical, going from
Mm-hmm.
physical body, skin deep,
Mm.
going deeply into, the bones of my body, and the essence,
Mm.
and the life force energy, and the sexual energy, and deep to the core, what it feels like. And that's a journey, I'm sure you're aware, but like that is that journey that we journey through all those parts of ourselves that are existing in that. And um I'd really love to hear from you around, because sexuality, even just the word sex or sexuality, I find can bring up a lot of stuff for a lot of people, or intimacy or sensuality. And I would really love just to hear your journey with that, like how you got into it. Were you fearful around getting into it? Did it bring up stuff for you? What are the common things? Do you have a lot of people who have, I guess, fears around even just those labels?
Yeah, well, I guess, I was going to say, like, kind of coming, I taught yoga for 8 years, and again, was
Mm,
very focused on the aesthetics of my body, of the postures, of how my body looked in the postures. And I mean, full disclosure, I was teaching Bikram yoga. So that means, you've got mirrors. And I was looking at myself in a mirror anywhere between 2 to 6 or 7 hours a day, every day. And so that started to really distort, firstly, the perception of my body. And I think because really in the mirror, all that's reflected back to you is this outer, like the mirror doesn't show what's inside. And so I kind of started to, we'll call it the shadow of yoga. Like, I definitely fell into that shadow of yoga, where here we are kind of like, prophesizing, health and wellness and spirituality and this, but like I was just focusing on what was being reflected back to me in the mirror until I started practicing other types of yoga where there wasn't a mirror. And that was so powerful for me because I got to, like you said, this journey inward. It was like, oh, I'm not looking at my reflection in the mirror. I'm actually feeling what's going on in my body. And so that, yeah, that was really profound. And then kind of coupled more with like mindfulness meditation and like starting to really sense what was going on like inside and not just outside. So again, to really echo this journey home. And I was kind of feeling like I was really over teaching yoga. And I did a kahuna massage training. And that was kind of like my first, it was a training where it wasn't just about massage, but it was really about personal development and personal power as well, which was really awesome. And through that training, I mean, you're getting so real with the body and you're seeing bodies in all shapes and all sizes and all this kind of stuff. And it was a real big, it was so helpful for me. It was like burning through the conditioning of thinking that you have to look a certain way, be a certain way in order to receive love, in order to receive validation, in order to feel worthy of showing up and sharing and expressing yourself. So that week was really powerful for me in terms of being with a group of people. It was probably the first time I've ever gone on like a 7-day journey with people, where we're exploring all facets of our human development and really being seen in our bodies and really working with energy as well. So that was just such a profound kind of turning point, and then realizing like it was, again, was the tip of the iceberg. And knowing that I wanted to leave yoga or kind of like transition out of teaching yoga full time is when I came across, these different sexuality trainings, and which took me into a year-long deep sexuality coaching course. And that was, again, like such a pivotal point because it was really getting so fucking real with the self-limiting beliefs that I was holding so deep inside. And I feel like it's like I almost, I've always been a very sexual being, but so much, like really a big part of my teens and through my 20s was using my sexuality as a way to feel validated, like really seeking that validation through men, and through through that feeling of being desired by a man was kind of like, was my kind of go-to, and that's how I sourced my self-worth and my validation, and seeing how tremendously damaging that was in my 20s. I just I never really made those connections until I started to kind of get into my 30s. And then it was like such a long process of undoing all of it, all of the lies and all of the, everything that like, everything I based my self-worth on basically had to shatter, had to like be destroyed, like the full on the tower card, like just burn it to the ground. And, but as I started to do that, I was awakening this sexual energy in like the purest of forms, like you said, you kind of have this moment where you drop in, and all these times that I had been experiencing my sexuality thinking like, oh yeah, this is it. And I'm hot and I'm a good lover and blah, 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 blah. But like, but then you really start to experience it. And for me, it started to become in the subtlety. So it was like in the subtle energies, especially, with everything that we're kind of fed through media. It's like always these big kind of loud, huge kind of experiences. And of course that can be a thing, but maybe if we lead into the sensuality of it, understanding that my body is capable of so much pleasure, and is not just located in my pussy, right? Like it is like the pleasure of breathing, the pleasure of having a sip of, spring water, like all these things, and just starting to expand like what was possible, Like I just didn't even realize these things were possible until I started to slow down and really
Mm.
get to know myself from the inside out, because I'd spend so long trying to know myself from the outside in. And so when I like, you know, kind of just like turn the looking glass inwards and realize like I can feel just the aliveness of my body by sitting here, was like, wow, there's so much richness to be had, and there's so much pleasure to be had in every moment we choose. And that also means the uncomfortable sensations and experience as well, that even then you can still extract the aliveness, the
Mm.
sensation, the pleasure from the full spectrum of the human experience. And so it was just like, this deepening, this understanding that there is so much, it's infinite, and to sit in that mystery of the infinite is so delicious.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. My whole body is, I feel like my whole body is just vibing on the energy that you're putting out right now. I totally agree. I totally agree. And I resonate with all of that, all of that.
Good.
And mm, what are the big things that you see with your work around this, around the big issues, I guess you could say, that you
Yeah.
find that you deal with?
Probably women that are cut off from that, like full stop, like women that do not have access to that.
Yeah.
They don't know what it's like to feel subtle sensations in their body. Or they will have like a big experience, but not recognizing like the subtle energy that's underneath it. So it often takes like something huge to like kind of like wake you up, you know, rather than this like sensing always what's going on, always sensing what's going on. So as a result, like there's a lot of numbness, there's the inability to surrender, not feeling safe. Shame is such a big one. It's such a big one. Um, if you give a woman permission to allow her sexuality, her sexual desire, I mean, it's like this switch turns on, but then like they get like a taste, and then it's like no, too much, you know. And then and so it's kind
Yeah.
of this push and pull with like, okay, I've read about it and I really want to experience it, but it's all in the head, right? So it's like all the energy and everything is running in the head. And then when your body's not living up to what you've read, or when your body's not living up to everything, like the people that you're comparing yourself to, or this or that, it like creates further kind of disconnection, or like really severing from the body. So I mean, the
Mm.
first thing always is like getting clear on getting clear on what's blocking, like what is it. And it's generally like the stories that we're still carrying from childhood, like always. It's like pretty much that's
Yeah.
where we start our story, the story of ourselves, the stories what's good, what's bad, like really starts from childhood. And so until we kind of go back and start to examine some of those whether they were events or what our mother said or what our mother modeled, or you know, whatever those things
Mm.
are, there is going to be this kind of inability to allow your body to experience the things that you desire, right?
Mm.
And then
I
of
totally
course,
agree.
yeah, and then of course once we get clear, when we have that clarity, and we kind of connect the dots and have these realizations, I mean, the next step is being able to move into acceptance, right? To really,
Mm.
truly accept that this is where you're at, and to not make it wrong. So that's another, like, we make ourselves wrong, we resist where we're at. And again, that's just further severing that connection to our bodies, because our bodies can only ever be in the present moment. So if you're resisting what is, you're resisting your body. And when there's that resistance there, it's not allowing the energy to flow and to be dynamic and to follow your sensations and to really know what's going on inside of you.
Mm, yeah, and it's interesting, like what the way I see it with that, I
Mm.
totally agree with that. It's like, how do we pull all of these parts into ourselves and love them rather than push them away? How do we, your camera keeps spying on your boobs, Kristen. That's just a comment.
Or someone saying that. Yeah, I don't, yeah, this
Yeah.
thing's like, this stupid fucking arm is ridiculous. It just like keeps falling. More clunkiness, that's okay. Every few moments, everyone can see my plunging cleavage.
Oh, I love that because it's like what's real. Like for me, what this brings up, this whole entire situation, even the clunky camera, even the clunkiness of getting on there, is
Yeah.
like all of it is like how do we be in the acceptance of the realness? And for me, I feel like this
Yes.
relates into what we're speaking about, right? Is we've got these stories in our brain of how we think it should be, or how we're told that it should be, or how we've read that it should be.
Yeah.
And the reality of it
Uh-huh.
is that how do we just accept what is?
Yeah.
How do we allow and accept what is actually here right now existing as is, and accept that and take that in and be in the pleasure of that, and love that? How do we be in that, like, and the more we can bring that in, the more we can allow ourselves to be in the the more our body opens rather than contracts. It
Yeah.
opens to allowing that energy to move through our body, and we get to feel that more and more. Yeah, I really love that. Did you want to say something?
Absolutely. Well, I was just going to say absolutely. Like I've been writing about this so much. It's something that I meditate on every day. And that is that, like, saying yes to life as it is in the moment. And that
Mm.
was so fucking hard for me. Like, full disclosure, only up until like a few years ago. And of course, even in moments now, it's so hard to say. You know, it's an ongoing journey. It's never like I'm only ever going to, or anyone's only ever going to be able to only say yes to life. I mean, there's obviously probably some ascended masters that can do that
Mm.
for sure. But, but, but the saying yes to life and the surrendering to what is,
Mm.
I mean, that's it. Like, that's the key. Like, I mean, I've been, you know, like, I was searching for the keys to the universe for so many years and searching for them in all the wrong places. And then it was like as simple as, and this is what's so beautiful about classical Tantra philosophy, which has been really the biggest underpinning of my studies and of my spiritual practice, is that inherent yes to life. Life is sacred by way of its inherent existence. And to refuse
Mm.
and resist what is, and to think that anything isn't as it should be, it's futile. It's a waste of energy. It blocks us from fully, truly experiencing the opportunity of every moment as it
Mm.
opens, right? And so I think that we can apply this tantric philosophy to sexuality, you know, to our bodies, to the allowing of what is true and what is alive and what's there in the moment, and saying yes to that. And that's
Mm.
how we find the pleasure. That's how we find the richness and the aliveness and the juiciness that is our sexuality. Sexuality isn't just about having orgasms or making babies or, you know, two people coming together. It's like how how to surrender to what is, which will actually give
Mm-hmm.
you the most ecstatic sexual experiences. And that was like such a huge thing. I actually just put together a guide on is a huge part of it. Like if you want to surrender like sexually, and I think for women that is such a deep
Mm.
yearning is to feel that surrender, that letting go, that giving away control, that merging with everything, that take me, like whether it's God, whether it's your lover, whether it's yourself, whether it's, the forest, the ocean, like take me, I am yours. And in order to be able to get there and to do that, it requires a deep, deep, deep yes, like just continually saying yes to life. As well,
Mm.
alongside of, as the other point is that yes has to be anchored in trust, in self-trust.
Yeah.
Trusting that you've got your back no matter what, or that God has your back. Again, loaded term, but you guys know what I mean. That life itself has your back, because life is inherently intelligent. Like it knows, like this is what it is. This is how it's meant to be, and that is so hard to accept. Like when I was kind of at my darkest point, and kind of reading all the texts, right, about like, oh, you've got to accept yourself and radical self-love and radical acceptance and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, no, 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 I don't want to accept this. But I got to a point where I was like, well, I guess I have no other choice, because fighting myself for 10 years, waging war against myself for 10 years certainly isn't working.
Mm.
Resisting life, resisting what is, resisting my body, resisting myself certainly isn't working. So when you said that switch, that it's like when you just kind of flip, and then you taste what it's like just to say yes to the moment. And through that saying yes to the moment opens you to the world of infinite possibilities, because your energy's open, your heart is open, your body's
Mm.
open, to be the gifts that are available to you in the moment.
Mm.
Mm.
Oh my goodness, so much yes to that. So much yes. Um, I'm just going to read some of the comments, guys. If you're watching and you have any questions around this, or any experiences, or even any resonance with what is being said, I really invite you to drop it in. The more we share our stuff around this and ask questions, and just speak this into existence and speak into it, the more it actually helps to open up the energy around this. So Beck said, as I heal more trauma, I begin to feel things I've subconsciously shut off from feeling. Slowly, slowly, it is coming back. Yes, beautiful, Beck. Yes, yes, yes. This
Thank
message is
you.
full power. Yes, absolutely. Um,
Oh, cool. I'm reading them on my like, but yep, Danica, you're right. I think I figured it out though. Just had to like raise it up a little bit, and now.
Yay! Oh, so good. Yeah, and I love all of that. And oh, yes, I really feel the words that you place to the energy behind that is so perfect. And the way that you speak into that is so on point around, your energy opens up, your body opens up, your heart opens up. It's all an opening, and you can really feel it. Like it's not just a physical opening, but it's like an energetic opening. And I remember when I started dropping into practices for myself, I would find parts in my body that would almost feel constricted.
Mm.
And the simple act of opening my energy to this energy that was sitting in there allowed for it to move in the way that it wanted to, and it allowed for that opening of that life force to move through. Um, Danik has just said, I really feel the subtle vibrations in my body from these sharing. Kristen, my experience with you is so soft, subtle, whilst powerful and profound. It's quite hard to put words to. I
Mm,
completely agree.
I love Danica. Thank you, my love.
Completely agree. Yes,
Yay.
totally agree. And one of the things that I love about what you're sharing, and I love about how you're wording this, is the feeling behind sexuality feels soft, and it feels curious, and it
Mm,
feels
that's
open
the word.
rather than, yeah, rather than scary, or rather than fearful, or rather than, all of those other things which I feel can come with diving into opening more and more to sexuality.
Mm, mm.
And so I would love to, hmm, I'd love to know, like from you, Kristen, if there's any, actually, I feel really called to ask if there's anything specifically that you want to share right now in regards to all of this.
Ooh, anything
Mm.
specific? Mm. Well,
Yeah.
I like maybe just piggybacking off like when I have had blocks in my energy, right? So, if we think about probably like the three main energy centers for a woman are like our cervix, our kind of yoni, our pussy, our wombs, our hearts, and our throats. And and when we kind of increase our sensitivity to these areas, I mean, I've had mega blocks in all of them, and I think like, and I've kind of started like with the chakras, like I did a lot of work like unblocking my pussy and reacquainting with her like in this very very safe and nourishing way, and kind of like took the power back and did a lot of
Mm,
healing around all the time I gave my sexuality away, all the time that I had sex when I didn't want to, all these like little traumas and micro traumas, and allowing people inside of me that had absolutely no business, all these kind of things, and like really being so unconscious around my sexuality through my teens and through most of my 20s. There was a lot of like reconciliation that had to happen, like,
mm,
and healing that had to happen as I kind of reapproached my pussy and my sexuality in a way that was so much more conscious and loving and empowered, realizing, God, that was a source of how I would give my power away. And really being able to reclaim the power there was huge, and brought so much more sensitivity and aliveness to that area of my body. So, it was a huge healing around that. Um, and then, of course, my heart, like, which, I think as I do this work more and more and more, it just gets more and more tender. And I think that that's how my heart is supposed to feel, is tender and is vulnerable. And, sometimes I'll be in like a breathwork
mm,
session, and I'll just put two hands, like two fingers on my heart, and we'll have such a cathartic relief. And I think we're constantly moving the energy, we're purging the energy, we're allowing ourselves to feel the heartbreak, all the times that, we weren't met, or we didn't feel good enough, or we needed more love and we didn't receive it, or, all these things that get stored in the heart. And feeling
mm,
like when I have, and my heart's just becoming more and more sensitive. So it's like that feels really scary and really vulnerable. So it's like with the opening of the heart and with the sensitivity and the tenderness of the heart also comes then the practice of of feeling strong, you know, of feeling like you've got your back, of feeling like deep, deep, deep self-trust that, you know what, I can open to the tenderness and the vulnerability of my heart. And I know I can hold it. I've got myself. It's anchored in this deep, deep, deep place of self-love and self-trust.
Mm.
So I think so often, and what I find a lot of my clients as well is there's an armor there, right? There's like some serious, serious armor and protection there. So it's doing a lot of, you know, heart, breath, you know, whatever. I'm not going to go and list modalities or anything like that right now, but more like there's so much we can do to start to de-armor our heart and to not be scared to feel the pain, to not be scared to feel the heartbreak, to not be scared to
Mm.
feel the ecstasy, you know, all of it that's there, you know, and so much. And I think for me, I'm like so heart-centered, heart-centric, heart-focused. Like this is an area that like is just always feels alive and pulsing is my heart.
Mm.
And I feel like as I've moved up, like this is what I'm working on now is my throat, you know, it is really coming into a much bigger, more mature self-expression and being able to use my voice and to speak and to express myself and to be seen and really finding like who I am through my voice. And
Mm.
and I think that like these are three really important energy centers that us as women that we're aware of and that we do a lot of work to connect and to soften and to move energy between these three energy centers.
Mm.
Mm.
I love that
Mm.
you touched into those. Yeah.
Mm.
I fully agree. Everything that you're saying, I feel like I'm sitting here
Mm.
going, oh, this is great. This is great. Every single thing is beautiful. And yeah, Beck's
Mm.
really resonating with this as well. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so I feel like this is a topic that is so broad and it's so it's wide as it is deep, right? It is so colossal because it essentially touches into the very it is the birthplace of who we are. Our sex and our sexual
Mm.
energy is
Mm.
the very energy that creates life, that creates worlds, that created us.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is so many pieces to it, but it is also um, there is such a beauty and such a presence and such a grace to it as much as it is big and I feel like there are so many things that we could say around it, but I think today I'm just looking at the time. What I'm feeling really called to do is to even just share, even if you have, because we're going to jump on next week, guys. For those of you who are watching, we're going to jump on next week and continue sharing. And I invite you to bring your questions as well next week, or even if you have pop them in the message us as well. We really want to open up a space to create this topic to be spoken more about, to be dived more into, to be opened up to more and more. And so,
Mm.
what I really feel called to do to finish with is maybe even like a practice or even yeah, maybe like a takeaway piece that do you have a takeaway piece that, you know, for those of you who are watching, for those of the women or the men who are watching, can just start to use to start essentially, just to start.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first and foremost, I think it is getting into your body and becoming aware
Mm.
of the subtle energy that's in your body all the time. So I think the best way of doing that is it's sitting up or lying down, coming into, of course, like body can only ever be in the present moment, breath can only ever be in the present moment. So first it's coming into presence using your body and your breath. So just starting to know you're breathing in as you breathe in and know you're breathing out as you breathe out. And then you just start to sense the gentle life force energy that is in you all the time. And so it's, again, that takes coming out of your mind, coming into your feeling body. Doing deep belly breathing is like one of the best ways to get into your body and to feel the sensations of your body, right? So even just deep belly breathing, starting really slow, as you were kind of saying, the grace and the elegance of like being in our bodies. And of course, then to the flip side of that, our bodies are, our sexuality can be completely wild and untamed. And maybe that's what we talk about next week, is the wild, untamed sexuality. This has kind of been the more angelic, energetic talk of sexuality. So trust me, there's a whole nother side too. But I think that first we've got to get, because we're so desensitized, right? We're so desensitized as a society, right? So much distraction, so much input, so much information, that it actually takes us out of the sensitivity of our bodies. So feel to be safe, feel your breath in your body. Place place your hands on your heart and just breathe into your heart, all while saying yes, like I am in this right now. Yes to life. Whatever feels like your mantra, like I am safe in my body. Whatever like is kind of the piece that might come up, or that you might be working with, like knowing and starting to reestablish connection to your body as a safe place, as a place that you can come home to, and a place that you can sense your aliveness.
Yes, beautiful. Was there more?
I think that is just an easy little tidbit, a little snippet, again, as we talked, or just to work with any energetic center. So whether it's your kind of sexual center, your heart center, or your throat center, sounding, like if you feel like your throat is really blocked, laying on your bed, inhaling and exhaling sound. Creating vibration in your throat. Like that's a huge way to unblock the kind of throat area. So yeah, just increasing your sensitivity awareness of those three centers by breath, by presence, and by allowing the sensitivity and the energy and the life force to kind of be there without judgment. That's the caveat, without judgment.
Totally. And
Right.
that's a really big important point to make, is the safety and trust. I find that they are two of the biggest things that come up when diving back into when our body, is creating that sense of safety and trusting what actually comes through in our body, and the allowance of it, that non-judgmental space of allowing what's moving through, allowing ourselves to feel whatever is to arise. And another way in which I think is really also beautiful to bring you back home to your body is to close down your eyes and begin to trace the boundaries of your skin. Just trace the boundaries of your skin and notice and feel into the subtle sensations as you trace the boundaries of your skin, and coupled with the breath as well. So there's a couple of different practices that you can do that bring you back into your body, to begin with. And it's not going to be a one-time practice thing. It literally is a continuous coming back home to the body, coming back home to the presence that's moving through.
Lifelong, for
So,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. Um, All right, so we've got lots of questions, but Kristen, I'd love
Mm.
for you to share. Danica's just asked, what are both of your intentions for what you do, share, embody, and offer?
Oh, the conscious sexual empowerment of the planet. I did a post today actually, and it said like creating something along the lines of like creating conscious, connected, sexually thriving relationships is fundamental to the healing of our planet. So my intention with doing this
Mm,
work is to awaken and heal the planet so that we can be in right relationship with ourselves and with each other. I really think this is what heals the world, you know, like if we're in right relationship with ourselves and we know how to be in right relationships with the ones that we love, like if we zoom that
mm.
out, there's no fucking reason to start a war. There's no reason to,
Fuck
you
yes.
know, like because we're so nourished and we're so fulfilled by like through our personal relationships, through our tribe, through our community. We know where we belong, and we know that we belong, you know, to something so much bigger as well, and that we are all
Mm,
connected. And I really feel like sexuality is a way to get to our deepest core wounds and our deepest blocks. And when we can integrate those, and when we can become aware and accept and love every part of ourselves, like that's what the world needs, so that we can come into right relationship with the planet and with the world at scale.
yes, I totally agree. I completely agree. But it has to start with us first. Like it has to
Yeah,
start with our relationship with ourselves first, of coming back home to
exactly.
ourselves first. And mine is very, very similar in the sense that it's like, how do we be in this body, in this experience? How do we be in the fullness? Because we've chosen this human life to be
Mm.
in this experience. So, first and foremost, how do we be in that experience and then also be in the relational experience with every single thing around us to make the
Mm.
most and get the most out of this whole fucking life that we have chosen? How do we be in that, knowing that we can fully experience and receive and give and be in the flow of all of that? Um, yeah, because it's true. Like, if we're in that space of it almost feels like a sense of sovereignty within ourselves. It feels like it's an intimacy with ourselves. Like if we
I
can
love
be in
that.
that with ourselves and be in that with therefore others and in relationships and connections, then exactly, there is no reason to start a war. Exactly. I
Right.
completely agree. Completely agree. Yes,
It's
absolutely.
absolutely fundamental. Absolutely fundamental.
Mm. All right. Bex just said, thanks for putting this together, ladies. Really feel aligned with this today. I've got loads of questions about healing sexual trauma, the many ways it presents itself, and how to continue feeling safe in the body with others. Yeah, it's definitely a layered topic. There's so many pieces. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined us today. We're going to jump on same time, same platform, same space next week. So it will be at 10:30 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm not too sure what time that is
It's
where you are, my
5:30
love.
p.m. The day before in LA.
Perfect. There we go.
And we won't have technical
Wherever you are.
difficulties. Actually, I shouldn't
We're
jinx
sorted
it,
this
should
time.
I? We've kind of sorted it out. Yeah, I won't jinx it and say we won't have
I
any,
feel
but at
like we're
least
sorted.
I think we're sorted now. I think it's going to be all flow from here.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. So we're going to put links to our contact details so you can stalk us, you can follow our journey. I'm going to put links to those in the info section above. And please, 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 if you do have any questions from today, in the meantime, between now and next week, anything around this, please, please let us know. We're here to literally help in that sense. So, and thank you, Kristen, for
mhm.
joining me.
Thank you. Yeah, it was
Mm.
so, yeah. It was just so beautiful to kind of share and and to be invited and to be received by you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, beautiful. Thank you for joining.
All right, you have a beautiful
All
rest of the
right.
day. So much
You
love to you
too.
all.
All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.